Going on, Falcon fans? This is Barakundo coming back at you with another video. So today, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the wrap up of the 2023 draft class for the Atlanta Falcons. Guys, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the last three picks that they made, since I did not have a chance to talk about those guys. And then we'll talk about where the Falcons, where they're looking at now, moving into the offseason, mini camps, OTAs, and training camp. So guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit notification bell so you don't drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys right here that I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here and talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is that I forgot to mention that the Atlanta Falcons did pick up AJ Terrell's fifth-year option. We know the deadline was May 1st, right after, so that's going to be tomorrow, but I think they picked it up on Friday. And I just forgot to mention when I was talking about one of the draftees that we had just drafted, but they did pick up AJ Terrell, fifth-year options, so he following the same boat that Chris Lindstrom did last year. Now they can actually work on a long-term deal for AJ Terrell. Jeff Okudah was the other guy, but kind of find out since the Detroit Lions actually restructured his contract, he was not eligible for a fifth-year option, so he's be playing on his last year of his contract. And so in essence, this is a contract year for Jeff Okudah. All right, just wanted to get that out real quick. Now let's talk about the last three draft picks that the Atlanta Falcons actually drafted on day 3. First, they had pick 113. And according to everybody, this was probably the steal of the draft, because Clark Phillip III actually fell to Atlanta at 113 in the 4th round. Some people had a 2nd round grade on Clark Phillips. And really, the only reason why he probably dropped so far because he's only 5'9". Ran like a 4.5, got short arms and things like that. But if you just go off the tape, and if you take away the height and all the measurements and things like that, you would say, why this guy not a 1st round pick? You talk about he's a student of the game. He listens to his press conference. He already talked about he looks at film. Went to the University of Utah, so he has the pedigree. Played in the Pac-12. Played against Drake London. Played against Addison. Both of those guys. And he held his own in both. Played really strong despite his size. Great anticipation. He actually finished his career with 9 interceptions, and 4 of those were pick sixes. So his anticipation is good. He really can read quarterbacks, and he anticipate really good. So I would actually see a guy like Clark Phillips really, really good in zone, playing zone, but he played mostly on the outside. I expect the Falcons to try to play him, move him into the slot. And believe it or not, guys, I can actually see Clark Phillips actually competing with guys like D. Alford, Mike Hughes, and Darren Hall as well for that slot position. So this guy really want to be on the field. I think he's a competitor, and I agree with everybody else. If you just go back and look at his film, he was always there, really physical, plays strong. So despite his size, and you ask him, he don't think he's a short guy. Hey, I can fall in that category because, you know, us guys, when we short, people always want to try to doubt us and things like that. So I understand where he coming from. And this guy, I always say, it's different between being short and being little. So you got to play with the big mindset. They can call it Napoleon complex or anything like that. But I think Clark Phillips is actually going to really be good in this NFL. Really good for the Falcons team. Be interested to see if they're going to play him on the outside of the slot, but I can really believe that he might end up being the 4th best corner on this roster by the end of training camp. So that's what I think about Clark Phillips. All right, the last 2 pick we had, DeMarco Hellmans from the University of Alabama. Guy 6'1", 203 pounds. Actually led the Alabama Crimson Tides in tackle on this policy. 108 tackles, 7.5 tackle for loss, 1 forced fumble, 8 fast defense, and then 1 interception. Now everybody want to talk about what happens against him in Tennessee. Of course, we know they dropped 5 touchdown passes over his head. So The knock on him, probably cannot play man to man as well. Probably better fit in his own. So I would interested to see how that's going to fit in guys like Ryan Nielsen defense. But you can probably put him on tight ends and maybe some running backs as well. He needs to improve his anticipation. Like I said, in the zone, it really hurt him. And the biggest thing for him, what he gonna need to do, make sure he's a great special team player. The guy is a rocket. He said his nickname is Hitman because he does come down and hit. And if you're able to lead the University of Alabama in tackles, that says a lot. So played all over the defensive backfield while he was at Alabama. So this is a good pick, especially in the 7th round. And if you think about it, we only got 3 safeties on the roster currently right now. So adding him to that safety room with Jesse Bates, Richie Grant, and Jalen Hawkins is really going to be big. And he actually have potential to actually make this 53-man roster if the Falcons decide to keep 4 safeties. But he's really got to make his bones on special teams. And that's where it really is going to start. So that's pick 224. And right after that, the Falcons had pick 225 where they took Jovan Gwynn out of South Carolina. Probably going to move him to center because he's a little short, 6'2", 297 pounds. But he's a 4-year starter at South Carolina. The teammates really respect him. He's one of the leaders on that team. Really good in zone blocking, so he fits what the Atlanta Falcons want to do. Being able to pull. The word on him that he's really feisty, being able to keep his movement with his feet and his hands. Really fluid, able to get back and phase on pass protection and things like that. But the Falcons going to move him in to play center. Like I said, probably because his side he played a lot of right guard in college, but I'm going to probably move him into center. So that backup center, that versatility, being able to play multiple positions, you can understand the theme of where the Atlanta Falcons is trying to go with this draft class. A lot of guys are versatile, starting with our number 1 overall pick, and Bijan Robinson. His versatility that he provides really is going to set the Atlanta Falcons up to be really explosive on the offensive side of the ball. So, guys, those are the draft picks. That's all. We had 6 draft picks. We'll recap every last one of them in just a minute. But once the draft is over, the Falcons actually go out and actually sign more guys as undrafted free agents. The interesting thing about this year and in the 2 previous years that Atlanta Falcons had a lot of roster spots to fill. This year they only had 6 roster spots to fill, so they didn't sign a whole lot of undrafted free agents, which is really interesting because this is totally different than other seasons for the Atlanta Falcons under this regime, of course. But they did bring in running back Carlos Washington Jr. from Southeast Louisiana. Bringing another running back. We know Caleb Huntley still on the IR. Probably won't be back in time. If anything, he probably be put on the PUP if he actually makes the roster. Wide receiver Justin Marshall is Buffalo. I actually looked at a little bit his film already. Like his size, big receiver, the prototype, typical receiver that fits Arthur Smith offense. Got to be good in the running game as a blocker. But, the Atlanta Falcons did not actually draft any receivers like a lot of us thought they would. But if you just go and look at the pass catchers that we already have on this team, did you include Bijan Robinson, you include Cordell Patterson, Corey Drake, and Kyle Jonu. You can see all the pass catchers we already have on the team. So the Atlanta Falcons maybe believe that they did not need to bring in any more receivers. Don't forget about Jared Barnhart, who we actually did not get to see last season, actually made the roster last year. And then the additions with Mike Hollins and Scotty Miller as well. So all those pass catchers we got, the Falcons maybe felt like they did not need to bring in any more. But they did bring in Justin Marshall and Keelan Harris as well from Oklahoma Baptist, 2 receivers that they brought in undrafted free agents. So see if those guys can be able to crack the receiver roster. I anticipate the Falcons to keep probably 5 receivers this year. Of course, we still have Frank Darby here as well. Maybe he could not let these guys supplant him as their spot, but these guys definitely could at least have a role on the practice squad. On defensive end, Ikuna I'm not going to butcher his name. Ichukwa from Rice, defensive end, another defensive end that they brought in. Of course, we're always talking about pass rushing. Like I said, I think this is a good staff to bring in developmental pass rusher because of the ability to Ron Nielsen to work with these guys to unlock some of their potential, like he did with the guys with the New Orleans Saints. So I really like that signing as well. And if, like I said, if he don't make the 53-man roster, hopefully he can stay around on the practice squad to continue his development. Then last but not least, linebacker Mike Jones Jr. from LSU, guy who transferred from Clemson to come to LSU, played, all over the field. Actually was named the captain once he got there. So really respect the guy. Interested to see what he's going to be able to do. That's another positions that we did not, address in the draft as well. I still think just kind of thin there. Still is the linebacker position. So Mike Jones Jr. definitely could, be battling for a roster spot here with the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons also invited 7 guys to camp. These are invitees. Remember, they only had so many roster spots to fill. I think they got 1 left because they only signed 5 guys. So they think they still have 1 roster spot left to make it to the 90-man. But if you look at the 7 invitees, center Jacob Galley from Baylor, edge Kevon Bennett from Arkansas State, quarterback Chase Bryce from Appalachian State, tight end Hunter Swoboda from Wichita Baptist, DB Ferlin Jordan from Southern Eastern, inside linebacker Jaquez Jones from Kentucky, and then kicker Matthew Treckett from Minnesota. So those are guys going to be coming to rookie minicamp. One of those guys probably could earn a roster spot because, like I said, I think we got 1 roster spot left. So it's going to be interesting to see these guys at the rookie minicamp and see if they're able to unlock what the Atlanta Falcons are going to be able to do. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give my grade for this draft. And I'm going to give it a B+. Could have easily gave it an A, but I'm going to try to not be so biased and give it a B+. One of the reasons I want to give it that because it's not because of the actually picks that they made in the draft. If you're going to actually add 2 picks that they gave up in the draft as well, actually they gave up 3 picks, but the 2 I'm talking about when they actually acquired Jeff Okudah for a draft pick that they gave up, and then also Jonnu Smith for another draft pick that they gave up. If you add those guys into some draft capital that we gave up to get those guys, to bring both of those guys in, I really like this is a solid draft for the Atlanta Falcons. If you think about it, we probably got one of the best players in the draft in Bijan Robinson, despite what the whole value thing about having running backs. And like I said, his versatility kind of, to me, it kind of justifies getting him in number 8 because you can use him in multiple ways. And you can see the vision that the Atlanta Falcons and Arthur Smith had for Bijan Robinson. Matthew Bergeron is probably one of the best run blockers in this draft coming in. It's going to be interesting to see him, transitioning to guard. He played most of his college career at tackle, but this is probably one of the best blockers in college football last year. If you go look at what he did at Syracuse. So the good thing about this, they don't have to rush him on the field right away, but I'm pretty sure the Falcons hoping that he can just come in and solidify that spot and be that left guard that we've been looking for so long. Then last but not least, Zach Harrison has all the measurements and multiples to actually be a great football player. The numbers probably don't show it right now, but hopefully, like I said, getting with a guy like Ryan Nielsen to actually unlock some of his potential. 6'5", 274 pounds, uber athlete is Zach Harrison. Hopefully, we just unlock that potential and make him actually, be able to do something that he should be able to do with all the tools that he already has at his disposal. Going behind a guy like Calais Campbell is really going to be good for Zach Harrison. right now, probably just play him at edge. Probably gonna have to make his bone on special teams as well. That's something that we'll have to do. But if you add all those 6 picks that I just talked about, bringing in a guy like Jeff Okudah and Jonnu Smith, and the last but not least, round 8, what the Falcons like to call it, our undrafted guys, I think they address all the things that they need to address. One thing that I can say, they let us know about their identity. They want to be physical on both sides of the ball, on the offensive side and the defensive side, based off all the moves they made this offseason, not just the draft. They want to be really multiple on offense. You can tell that, like I said, by the signing of Bijan Robinson. So many different things you can do with a guy like that. Guy like Kyle Pitts already with his versatility, along with a guy like Jonnu Smith and Cordell Patterson. So all those guys can be lined up in so many different places on the field during the offense. It's going to be pick your poison. Once Arthur Smith, lays out his vision, really going to be hard to figure out what the Atlanta Falcons going to be running. I really like this because they can have a different game plan every week, because any one of those guys I just mentioned can have a big game and go off. And don't want to forget about Tyler Algier, how explosive he was in the run game as well. So, and then also Drake London being able to play in the slot and outside. And then with additions of Skylar Miller, who can actually take the top off, and another physical receiver in Mac Hollins, you can see the versatility that the Atlanta Falcons is trying to bring to this offense. And then to go to the defensive side of the ball, a lot of people, still wary about the pass rush. But I want to say that when you draft 2 guys last year, young guys that show potential, you want to see what they'll be able to do. We always hear about the jump from year 1 to year 2. So a guy like Armber Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone, you want to be able to let those guys show how much development they have got from year 1 to year 2. Bringing another pass rusher in would have been great, but at the same time, you want to be able to let your guys that you invested in the draft and see, can they actually, show what their progress from year 1 to year 2. Then with the additions of Bud Dupree, bringing back Lorenzo Carter and Calais Campbell, along with Caden Ellis, I think our pass rush is going to be fine. And guys, to tie that in with our back end, where I think we got one of the most improved defensive backfields in the league, bringing in all the people that we brought in. Hopefully Jeff Okudah, planning his contract year, can actually kind of replicate the things he did last season, not the other 2 seasons prior. Of course, Jesse Bate do the things he do. Richard Grant continue to improve from his year, and of course AJ Terrell continue doing the things he does as well. But the biggest thing that we really got to look at, because they are not done, I don't think. We still got $13 million still in cap space, and Atlanta Falcons can definitely still bring in some free agents that might be still out there. We still haven't heard a lot about Rashaan Evans, who has not signed with a team yet. I talked about that being a hold at our team right now, so they could still bring in a guy like that. Rashaan Evans could bring in another tight end like Michael Pruitt. Guys, he actually played really good for us last year when Kyle Pitts went down. They want to be able to add another guy like that. And then it's rumors out there about the Jets releasing their receiver as well, and we know that Arthur Smith has experience with him. So those guys definitely could still be out there potentially. Falcons still have $13 million. They always say they're going to do whatever it takes to make the roster better. Adding those veterans in, bringing those guys back, it's really going to be to see what the Falcons are going to do. Or they just going to stay pat with the funds that they got. Of course, some of that money is going to go to these draftees that they just signed, but they still should have about $8 or $9 million to play with for signing at least one more free agent that could be potentially out there. All right, guys, that's where I'm at. That's where I think the Falcons look right now. I love the things that they did this entire offseason, culminating to the end of this draft. But now it's all about putting it all together, right? That's where it stands. The next big thing is going to come up is the schedule release that's supposed to be released on May the 11th. We'll see who our first opponent is going to be. And now these guys got to really get in and start to build this team, build this chemistry. And that's what some of the things that we want to see from this Atlanta Falcons. But guys, like I said, overall for me, B+, easy A, if anything, A-. But I really want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about not just the draft class, but all the things that the Atlanta Falcons did to end at this point. This is probably like 95% or the team that we're going to go into training camp. Still probably some more moves that we might see, but I think this is the team right here, 95% of the team. Remember what I said about the roster projection, 53-man roster. They got to get down to that. And Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, during their press conference this weekend, definitely talked about the competition. It's going to be a lot of competition around this team, a lot of different positions, especially if you look at some of the positions like defensive backfield, cornerback position. It's really going to be a really, really big competition. That the trenches, so many guys in the trenches. We're really going to look at the competition there. Offensive line, definitely competition. An offensive line, especially in that guard spot, left guard spot. You expect guys like Jalen Mayfield, Matt Hennessy, not just going to give it up along with Justin Schaefer. They're just not going to give it over to Matthew Bergeron. He definitely have to go out and earn that spot. And, guys trying to make the back end of the 3-man roster. So it's going to be important, the things they'll be able to show on special teams, especially in those preseason games. And see who can actually make the rest of that practice squad. So it's going to be interesting to see, but we can talk about that, come moving up to training camp. And that's what I got, guys. So let me know what you think. This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.